town meeting that concerns Plaisance Park. But before going in to anything, we'd like to stand and sing, you're not hearing, sing the national anthem. We solemnly declare, side by side we stand, islands of the blue Caribbean Sea, is our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Hear every creed and race, find an equal place. God bless our nation. Hear every creed and race, find an equal place. And may God bless our nation. Could you please stay standing for a word of prayer? Almighty and eternal being, O supreme and divine light, we, your children, have gathered today in your remembrance to give thanks and praise to you for all that you have given to us. O supreme being, light of all lights, you have been compassionate and loving, merciful and caring. You are our Father and our Mother and our friend and everything to us. You held our hands when I thought that there was no one with me. You gave us the health and strength to succeed in life. Your virtues and divine powers show us the right and noble path. You have provided us with food, shelter, and clothing that I can also share with the less privileged, the poor, sick, and elderly. Father God, I give thanks this day for all that you have bestowed to us and for giving us the courage to enjoy life in a meaningful way with you. I give thanks to you for you have protected us from natural calamities and provided an evergreen flora and fauna to keep our minds healthy, positive, and inspired. We give thanks to you, dear God. You have looked over us during our travails and in my place of work. You have done the same to my family and colleagues. I place my trust and faith in you, O supreme almighty being, that from above, in your invisible divine form, you have continued to look over us, our family and friends, in all our activities. For you are the light and Savior for all your children, and will never let us fail. I pray this day to you, God. I give my thanks in advance that your peace and love will keep us forever glowing with happiness. Love you forever, dear and near one. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Say pleasant night. Pleasant night to the leader of the MSJ, David Abdullah, our General Secretary, Ozzy Warwick, Theo Henry, and all others gathered here this evening. This evening is the most important evening in the lives of all of us, in the lives of you people here in Plaisance Park, and in the lives of others who have come to listen to the town meeting. This meeting really is for you, to tell us how you see the Plaisance political system, what is happening in our country, to tell us how you feel, to let us know if you know of the lies and the many lies that have been told for us through the politics, the many things that is going wrong in our country, the sending home of so many workers, whether it be petrol train or wherever it is presently in this country. Some of us might not be paying attention or have not paid attention, but thousands of workers have been sent home. And we have the petrol train scenario as the leading light in that. But there are others. There's tremendous suffering in our country. There's tremendous crime in our country. I think this weekend, going here, it was 11. I think 11 murders just over the weekend. And we're seeing so many things happening in our country that could never be right and pleasing to us as citizens of this country. So that, as it is presently, we have a young lady in our midst who worked at petrol train and who have been here and who have been on the radio and television, sometimes telling her story and asking questions to people in gatherings like this. So I'd like to introduce my dear sister, coming all the way from deep south. Where to stand up here? Deep south? Deep south. She's coming all the way from Erie. So that is to tell you the interest that she has in what is happening in our country. The interest to know and to go forward in the right way. For us not to continue to be making mistakes as we continue to make mistakes politically and otherwise. So this afternoon, I'll ask the sister to say a few words to us, and then after we'll go into a deeper aspect of the program. Sister Clifton.
Thank you, Comrade Calendar. Pleasant good evening also to the political leader of the Movement for Social Justice, Comrade David Abdullah, Comrade Theophilus Henry of the Faizabad Paliseco OWTU branch, and also Comrade Ozzy Warwick. And I want to especially thank them, for inviting me here this evening to say a few words. Our last community speaks meeting was held at Hicklin Village in Faizabad, and it was a really informative and electrifying experience. People are tired of the neglect and disrespect shown by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, government after government in fact. The disrespect to communities around the country, Faizabad and Paliseco, Erin, Point Fortin, Point Up and environs. These communities possess the wealth that has sustained this country for years, only to be neglected, or as one newspaper story I read once said, forgotten. It was really a privilege to be a part of that meeting, and after I got home and I prepared myself for bed, I started to think about this oppressive PNM government, and I wondered, who do these people think they are? Who do they think they are? Who are you, PM Rowley, to class me, a hard-working and dedicated mother of four, as lazy and a drain on the economy? Who are you to tell lies on me and all the workers of Petrotrin? Who are you? I wondered. Who are you to take away the livelihoods of thousands of Petrotrin workers, hundreds of TSTT workers, NFM workers, and thousands more contractor workers? Persons like myself who have children to sustain, school to pay for, family homes and vehicles to pay for. Who are these people? Who are you, Espinay, to determine that after a man works for 10, 20, 30 years, temporary in the oil fields, his compensation is determined by a formula that you are satisfied with? And if he doesn't fall within that bracket, he has to, quote unquote, suffer. Who are you to make a decision that would negatively impact thousands of small businesses in the South without question, consultation, or input from the very people this decision was going to affect? Some of whom, by the way, have already closed their doors, and others are just one more month of losses from closure. Who are you to dismiss all Petrotrin workers and, to add insult to injury, decide to sell off our company? Yes, because it belongs to us, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Who are you, Espinay? 3 times you raise gas prices, and they ain't riot yet. And you have the nerve to grin when you say that as if it's some sick game that's being played with the lives of the people of this country. No care for taxi drivers, no care for the fishing community, no care for the citizens of this country. Who are you, Imbert? Who are you? Who do you think you are? I'll tell you who they are. They have no vision. They have moved us from a thriving oil and gas economy to a tickets and fines economy. We, the people, are suffering for their lack of vision and foresight. That is who they are. They don't care about communities. Look around and see the breakdown of our society. Year after year, we have the same issues, little or nothing being done. Where are your youth facilities, training centers? Some communities don't even have a community center. They don't care about fishermen, how they work to feed their families and create a life their children can respect and be proud of, maintenance of their boats, and all that goes with their livelihood. They don't care about squatters, demolishing the homes of people who can't afford to purchase land, but putting nothing in place for them to be regularized or acquire state housing. And comrades, I want us to get this notion of government house and government land and government grants out of our vocabulary. You see, this gives the impression that our assets belong to the government. State housing, state lands, state grants, all these belong to us, the people, owned by the state. They don't care that you are sacrificing to send your children to school, only for them to be well educated and qualified, but jobless. They don't care where they take our beloved country to. They don't care where they take it to or who they sell it out to. All they care about is the 1% of this country, a group that wants to create a divide so wide between us and them that if we allow them, this country will have 2 sets of people, and it will have nothing to do with race. The super rich and the filthy poor. No middle class, just a group of people literally struggling for their very survival. And on that night, as I sat and I assessed this failed government, yes, I say they are a failed government, I was forced to ask another question, this time to myself. Crystal, who are you? Yes, me. I was asking that to myself. Who are you, Crystal? And tonight I'm posing the same question to all of us here. All of us within the hearing of my voice. Squatters, fishermen, ex-Petrotrin, retirees, employed, you that just turned 18, father, mother, pastor, priest, Indian, Negro, Chinese, mix, man, woman, doctor, nurse, teacher, taxi driver, security officer, oil field worker, small contractor, citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. Who are you? Are you that individual who is fed up but will continue to complain and sit in the same spot you have been sitting for umpteen years and do nothing? Is that who you are? Are you that person who will continue to support the PNM and the UNC after seeing them destroy all systems, healthcare, education, social services, sports, and every other system they have shamelessly corrupted? And you support that because one party claims to be for Africans and one claims to be for Indians. Is that who you are? Are you going to continue to sit down, or are you going to stand up? Are you going to be satisfied watching on as just a few people speak out? Or are you going to find your own voice? Are you going to continue to vote by race? Or are you going to be a true patriot, one who loves his community and country and is willing to remove anyone who no longer serves the citizens and common good of Trinidad and Tobago? Who are you? Are you going to continue to support a system that you cannot deny has not been working in favor of the ordinary citizen, but really structured to facilitate and protect the 1%? Or are you going to support a new system, an MSJ system, where we all get a fair share of our country's resources and opportunities? Who are you? Are you that individual that feels that social justice cannot be spoken of in our churches? Well, let me paint a picture. If you believe in the struggle of a small man against a giant of a situation, while everyone laughed and mocked him because he was, in their minds, too small to take on that giant, does that sound like social justice? It does. But that was David and Goliath. Or if you believe in a man guided by the Spirit, rallying the masses, awakening their consciousness to believe in a better day, where you don't work as slaves in inhumane conditions, but as free men working to sustain yourselves and for fair wages, that sounds like social justice. That was Moses leading the Israelites. Or what about a man who takes 5 loaves and 2 fishes, the only meal available on that day, to feed the masses? There was enough that everyone was filled. Everyone ate regardless of race, religion, or social standing in that crowd. That sounds like social justice. That man, Jesus Christ himself. So I ask you again, do you think that social justice isn't spoken of in the churches? Comrades, we have to speak social justice everywhere. In the barber shop, in the beauty salon, when we go to our friends, we have to speak social justice. It's what we believe. We have to speak it. Who are you? Are you fed up of hearing about politics and Petrotrin and union? Because that's a deliberate strategy, a strategy used to subdue us, make us care less and careless, frustrate us into feeling powerless. Is that who you are, comrades? Are you powerless? Are you happy with the current situation, of this country? Or are you prepared to come together, all of us, every single one of us, to be a part of a movement that will bring us to a place where we can be proud to once again call Trinidad and Tobago the greatest island on earth? Well, comrades, ladies and gentlemen, I hope by now you have figured out or solidified who you are, who you want or choose to be. You see, we cannot go on in the direction that we are heading in. Our children and the generation to come will, not might, will suffer. We must remove the mandate that has been given to this PNM government and place it where we can expect a brighter day for ourselves and our generations to come. I know who I am. I know the value of my vote. We gave the current government and opposition their job, and today I say, without apology, you are fired. It is time to take our country back. I know that the movement for social justice is the only party on the political landscape that supports the working class of this country, that has a leader who has integrity, experience in politics, local and international economic issues, history, and a wealth of knowledge in the dynamics of making this country great again. He is willing and able to work with the population and his team in turning this country around. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, if we truly want to see a brighter day, we must understand where we are today and keep in the front of our minds that it cannot be business as usual. I will do my part. I will support the movement for social justice in both general and local government elections. What about you? What will you do? Who are you? Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. And questions were posed for us in asking, who are you? Who am I? Where are my thoughts? How do I see this country? What road must I walk to liberate ourselves from what is now before us and what is coming down? Who are you? Who am I? Who am I? Serious questions for all of us. And when we look at, because when we look at Plaisance Park, we can say that our fathers, forefathers, some others, toiled hard in Texacodes, Trinidad, Petrotrin, and we provided real money, I put in it raw there, so, to the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. We're able to send our children to school comfortably because we worked at Petrotrin. We were able to do a number of things, and the sister asked a while ago, who are we? And who SPD and others feel they are? Who only feel he is in terms of lying to this nation? And pure lies, pure lies, pure lies. So that the ball is in our court. All that we can do at this stage is offer to you that hand of hope that all is not lost. All is not lost. Because sometimes it tells us, the Bible itself tells us, when something comes up and it seems a defeat, we must take it and make it positive, make it work for us. So brothers and sisters, I would not continue anymore because I could be saying a number of things in terms of what has gone on in this country. So that I would now like to open the floor to hear from you, how you feel, how you see the things. Is there hope for us? Is there hope for our youth in this country? So that we would like to open the floor to you and to pose whatever questions you have, to pose those questions to our political leader. Because there's a vision that we have. There's a vision that we have that could put this country on the right footing. There's a vision that we have, and I just want to touch that up, because very early himself in the life where we are here in this village council, in this village, through the village council, we started to do some things. Some people didn't understand. We signed this village council as a contractor and we started to work for URP to give young people jobs in the community. I remember being on the board of PSL, and one of the things that I was pushing because there was a contract out for $1.2 million. And I was pushing it. But sad as it may be, I had to leave the country on union business. And although I went around, we didn't have equipment, but I went around and checked out all the WACO men and everything and what we could have done to get a contract because people in PSL was behind us. And foolishly, while I was out of the country, a representative from PSL came here. And that person said to that person, we had nothing. We had no worker, we had nothing. So the contract was lost. That was to give people hope. And we have a vision that the community could be doing a number of things for itself. And not this URP foolishness and things that we could provide work for ourselves. And the work that would have been provided here at Pleasance Park was infrastructural work. People who remember, I got PSL and through Prime Minister Manning, and it was announced on the ground here in our 50th anniversary to pass $50 million for infrastructural work for Pleasance Park. And we insisted that whenever that work was to be started, I insisted that you employ people from Plaisance Park. That and also have fallen. We have not seen that infrastructural work out. Recently, as it is, when we're trying to get things done, I asked some comrades, very strong PNM comrades in the community, if your party had given us that one and said that for infrastructural work, the next one didn't do anything, you will feel that you should be happy that you have your party back and be in the tail to finish this work. Because a lot of elderly people in Plaisance Park are suffering because of water and the community. So that we have a vision that villages, communities could do for themselves. And I was trying. I registered this village, as I said, as a contractor and built a drain in Claxon Bay. Pauline and others worked on that. Still did it down here. So that we had a vision, and we still have a vision, that how things could be done in a community. So that we open the floor to you, to talk to us, to see how you see it, and to see how you feel and who am I in this situation. The floor is open.
with me on my left, Ozzy Warwick, General Secretary of the MSJ, immediate right, Theo Henry, who is the party organizer, and Clyde Canada, who everybody in Plaisance partner as well, is the International Relations Officer on the executive. I want to, first of all, thank you, members of the community, workers, comrades, who worked at Coil here or in Petrotrin. Thank you for coming out this evening. And I also want to especially thank the team that organized this evening's meetings. I myself was on one walkabout, and it was one or two walkabouts with a number of colleagues, Fitzroy Lewis, Ricky Benny, and so on. And then I know that Clyde and Colin McKeon and Fitzroy and others walked the area. I'm not seeing Martin Jerome here this evening, but he also walked with us on one or two occasions. So I want to thank the team for going on there and mobilizing for this evening's meeting. Let me deal with the second question first, and then I'll come to the first question afterwards. This meeting really has a twofold purpose. It is not just a single purpose, it is twofold. In that, one of the important planks of the MSJ's policy and vision is that to transform Trinidad and Tobago. To transform Trinidad and Tobago, that process cannot be done from the top. That process must involve people being organized and empowered in their communities. And I'll elaborate on that in a little while. And therefore, if we want to really bring about fundamental change in the country, it is not about David Abdullah or executive members of MSJ. We have to bring about, as Sister Crystal Bernard said, a real movement of people on the ground. If we look back at our history in Trinidad and Tobago, and you know, Sunday gone was Easter Day, but Sunday was being popularized in the consciousness of many people as Buju Banton's concert. But April 21st, for those of us who are old enough to remember, was also the day which the declaration of the first state of emergency took place in 1970. Now, many people forget that there were actually two states of emergency. One, April 21st, 1970, which lasted till about November of 1970. And then there was another one that was declared in late 1971, which ended in June of 1972. In both those states of emergency, George Weeks, then President General of OWTU, other leaders of the union and militant activists part of the Black Power movement became political detainees. Now, I just give that little reminder about April 21st to make the more substantive point that without the mass movement of 1970, employment practices in the banks would not have changed. Because up to 1970, everybody employed in the banks were lighter skinned than me, right? Which means that nobody else in this room would have gotten, or their children would have been employed in the banks. 1970 also propelled the government of the day to implement the third five-year development plan of Trinidad and Tobago, which was the most important development plan ever in our country, which identified that we had to own and control the commanding heights of the economy. That then led to NP, which was started around, 1972 or 73 or thereabouts. It led to Trintoc, when the government bought out Shell to form Trintoc. The NP was formed from Esso gas stations and Shell gas stations and Texaco gas stations and so on. And then we began to move. NCB, National Commercial Bank, was a state-owned bank, first state-owned bank, which took over the assets of the Bank of London and Montreal. And then we had the whole process of localization of the financial sector, so that Barclays Bank had to sell shares, and 51% of the shares of Barclays had to be locally owned. Not state, but locally owned. And that's how we got Republic Bank. And similarly, Royal Bank of Canada became eventually RBTT. Unfortunately, that got sold back to Royal Bank. And Scotia Bank, and so on and so on. So we began to move in the direction of not simply having independence with an anthem and a flag and a parliament made up of people who were elected by us and were therefore citizens of Trinidad and Tobago running the affairs of the country, but we began to move towards a certain measure of economic independence. But that move towards economic independence was the result of a mass movement of people on the ground, which was 1970. And if we go back 30-something years before that, 33 years before that, in 1937, the struggle of 1937, beginning on the 19th of June, in Faizabad with Tubal Uriah Buzz Butler, that movement of people on the ground resulted in us getting the full right to vote, because prior to that, only some people had the right to vote. In fact, those people who had the right to vote only got that as a result of the general strike of 1919-1920. The point I'm making is that the end of colonialism and independence was the mass movement of 1970. So when people come together and organize in their own interests, ordinary working people, workers and farmers and small business people and self-employed and fisher folk and so on, when the mass of the people come together and unite and organize and have an agenda in their own interest, that is when, as a people, we make the greatest leap forward and we get betterment for ourselves. So, we have huge problems in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm going to come to the issue of white-collar crime and crime. Yes? And water. Let me deal with water. So, we have bottled water here. And well, I'm not going to give an advertisement because this is going to go up on Facebook and so on live. But it's branded. So, 15 years ago, when you have a meeting, there will be a jug of ice water and some glasses, not bottled water. All of us used to drink Wassa water, right? So we now have a situation where water has become a private commodity to make profit on, rather than being a public good which all of us need, because the most important ingredient to human life is water. You could go without food for much longer than you could go without water. So, MSJ's policy on water is that in the Constitution, we should put water as a human right, just like the right to life, freedom of expression, and freedom of association. We should have the right to water. And therefore, there should be no profiteering about water. So we have a shortage of water, and you don't have water in your tap home, or if you're like me, our tanks, when they fill up, and because Wassa water comes dirty a lot, at the bottom of the tank is a thick layer of sludge, mud. So if the water comes too heavy into the tank, it goes stir it up, and you can't use that with the pump to drink because the water will be dirty. So we end up having to buy water. But we really should have a situation where everybody gets water. I'll come back to how we could do that later on. But to do that, you have to go up against the financial interests of big capital in this country who own the companies that bottle the water. Now, how do we take them on? If it is just a few people in government as ministers or some people in the parliament challenging by way of legislation and other policies the bottlers of water, they will mount a huge campaign because they have deep pockets to fight that back. And I'll give you a way in which they have done so over the years. I was on the board of the Environmental Management Authority, EMA, between 2002 and 2008. And somewhere around 2006-07, or maybe early 8, around that time, towards the end of our period on the board, we served 2 terms, we came up with a beverage container bill, which could have passed Parliament easy because it only required a simple majority. There was public consultation and so on and so on, consultation with the stakeholders, the people who make sweet drink and water and bottled water and so on. And the policy was that all these bottles should attract a deposit. So when you buy it, if you buy this for $2, you should go back to a supermarket like you carry bottles. And when you carry a case of carry bottles back, you get back X dollars for each bottle. Similarly, for every plastic bottle, you get back a 5 cents or 10 cents. Because the polluter must pay, and the polluter is the one who produces the bottle. Well, that was what? 11, 12 years ago. That legislation has never passed. Why? Because the bottlers do not want to pay anybody 5 or 10 cents on the bottles. So, never passed. But was there any mobilization by any government of the mass of the people to say, come and support us on this piece of legislation because all of these bottles are destroying the environment of Trinidad and Tobago? There was silence because the people who bottle water are the people who finance the parties that go into government. So, white-collar crime. White-collar crime is big. Some economists, and I did some economics and so on, and we have discussed this in many forums, would estimate that 20 to 25% of all the financial activity in this country is money laundering and corruption. That's huge, eh? Now, how do you tackle that? Our position is that we should have an MSJ would, as an MSJ government, would appoint special prosecutors only to deal with white-collar crime and corruption. Because the office of the DPP is totally stressed out with having to prosecute murders or ensure murders, robberies, theft, all of those things like that, car stealing, all of those crimes are dealt with. And therefore, we propose special prosecutors. You see like what happened in the United States with Robert Mueller, special prosecutor. And you see, he started off looking at one thing with Trump involvement with Russia, but he ended up prosecuting Manafort for money laundering. That's what he did. And they followed the money because Manafort was passing money through a bank in St. Vincent and in this bank and that bank, and they found the money because you can find the paper trail if you have the right forensic people. That is our proposal, and that you fund that office with significant resources. We also propose that you have very strong financial intelligence unit, not like what we have now, which is a department within the Ministry of Finance. Most people don't know that the FIU is not a standalone unit. It is a department within the Ministry of Finance. So it is under effectively political control. And all the FIU can do is lay in Parliament every year a report of suspicious transactions. Now, how do they get information about suspicious transactions? Because banks, credit unions, jewelry stores, a list of designated activities must report anything that they think is suspicious. But the FIU does not have investigative power to be able to move from a suspicious transaction to evidence that this was in fact corruption or money laundering. They then hand the file to the police and nothing happens after that. The only person who has really been prosecuted for money laundering and so on was Vicky Boudram. Nobody else, one or two little small things, but nobody. Just now, brother, let me just try to finish my answer in full, and then we're going to take another round of questions and comments from the floor, because we really want members of the floor to speak. So you're going to get your turn, don't worry. I wasn't planning to speak so soon, but I wanted to try and respond to some of the questions that have been put already. So, how do we, when Dr. Rowley won the elections, he campaigned all over the country against corruption. He said this one have this corrupt, that corrupt, all kind of things, not so? That was the PNM's campaign, corruption, UNC corrupt, the thief, and therefore we can't put them back in charge of the treasury because they go put their hand in the till, the cash register. That was their campaign. And they give all kind of information out there. But any of that information that the PNM was bussing Mark on the platform, or Jack Warner, remember Jack said, no, not tonight, tomorrow night, remember, during the campaign of 2015? But any of that information has led to anybody being charged with any crime in Trinidad and Tobago? I hear you. Okay, why not? In September 2015, I went to meet with Dr. Rowley shortly after the elections. He and I had a one-on-one in his office and so on. And I said to him, because he was giving me all kind of information about what they learned about contracts. I said, Prime Minister, you have to make sure that some people make a jail. No, it's not for the government or the Prime Minister to investigate the crimes or alleged crimes and wrongdoing and prosecute, because that would be a police state, right? It is for the police to do that. You can't have a political person using the power of government to go after people and so on. That is dangerous. But I said to him, listen, Ramesh Maharaj had informed me of how he, as Attorney General, got the Piarco Airport matters to trial. He, as Attorney General, was his own government, went to his own cabinet and got his own cabinet to agree to establish an Office of Special Prosecutor. And they appointed Carl Hudson Phillips, Senior Counsel, or Queen's Counsel, as Special Prosecutor. And Cabinet then approved a budget for the Special Prosecutor. And then the Special Prosecutor, not the Cabinet, not the Attorney General, then went out and hired the forensic auditor, Bob Lindquist. And then they had a team of specially trained police officers working with Lindquist and with Carl, and they got the evidence. The evidence was so good that people in the United States, from Calmal Quip and those American companies that were involved in the construction, the evidence was passed to the American authorities. The American authorities prosecuted them in the US. Those people made a jail and they came back out. And they also paid some compensation to Trinidad and Tobago and so on. People here have been charged, but they're still going through the court system. But the fact is, evidence was obtained. So I said, that is, Prime Minister, that is the way to go. I heard nothing, we heard nothing, country heard nothing about any special prosecutor. I am aware that Ramesh and another former Attorney General, John Jeremy, one UNC, one PNM, former. Both of them senior counsel. One Indian, one African. So you can't get more politically neutral than that. They went to meet with the Prime Minister and they put forward the same proposal. and virtually volunteered to be the special prosecutors to go after white-collar crime. Nothing had happened. Ramesh and myself went to see the Prime Minister and Stuart Young. We met him in December of 2015. And we reiterated what had to be done. Nothing has been done. Why? Because, in my respectful view, the people who are involved in corruption cross both parties. They're in both. And the people, it's not just the politicians who are corrupt. It is the big, powerful, private businesses in this country and people involved in money laundering and the drug trade at the highest level. But some of them also finance the parties. And therefore, neither the PNM nor the UNC is going to go after white-collar crime in a serious way. Don't mind to just pass the wealth and forfeiture of assets law, which in my view was an important thing that was part of our MSJ policy from way back when. We wait to see if any assets get seized. And, you know, the Attorney General Faris said, well, the Zessers, you have to explain where you get your gold chain from. No, it's not the Zessers that we have to go after. I'm not saying that if they're involved in wrongdoing that they ought also to be held to account. But the main wealth is not people who have gold chain around their neck. The main wealth that has been corruptly stolen and engaged in money laundering has been located in banks in Miami and Cayman Islands and Panama by the rich and powerful of this country. Now, MSJ will go after them, yes, but they will fight back. They will fight back. And when they fight back, and they will do it in all kinds of ways. They say, you're coming for us? Okay. So people who have supermarkets that are laundering money, and we go after that, all of a sudden now, they're going to start hoarding food. And when they start hoarding food, the same workers who will benefit from stopping corruption, but not getting the type of food at the price they want, will start attacking the government. And so we now, to be able to succeed in bringing about real change in this country, have to have people in their communities conscious and organized. Conscious and organized. And so this meeting this evening, sister, is about doing two things. One is, yes, sharing our ideas about and vision about what has to be done for Trinidad and Tobago, but also it is about educating and informing the community about, but it is also about us listening to you. Because you see, most political meetings in the country, and you will see UNC and PNM have public meetings going on, Monday night forum, this night forum, and so on. And you will see a crowd. Most of the crowd is busting from outside, but tonight we ain't busting anybody. Most people are from the community or surrounding areas and so on. But also, it is only people at the head table speaking, and you never hear the voices in the audience. Our politics is different, and our mission and vision speak to the type of party we are, which is that we listen and we work with people, and we will struggle and fight with people to bring about a better life for all. So, Clyde is from the park. He doesn't live here anymore, but he's from the park. Everybody know him. Fitzroy from the park and so on. And they are activists and leaders of MSJ. So they could tell us the problems in the park. But we also want to hear what you have to say, not only about the problems in the park, but problems in the country. And we would like you to tell us what you would like us to do about those things, so that when we come out with positions, and we are very shortly going to publish 20 points for 2020. 20 points for 2020, which will be on the environment, which has to do with water, because we're in a major crisis right now. In fact, I'm going to have a press conference on Sunday to deal with it, so I'm going to talk everything that I have to say in the press conference. But not only do we have a water shortage now, but when the rains come, we're going to be in trouble too, because the hillsides are burnt, topsoil is going to wash down, so there'll be mudslides, flooding on the plains, and a whole set of problems like that. And then when that happens, the water treatment plants can't process all that turbulent water, and so they will have to shut down the plants. So don't feel that when the rains come, our water problem is over. So we have to have a sustainable approach to water, and someone just sent me a few days ago a major policy document on water, which I have to distill, not distill water, but I have to distill to put out. But it has to be about capturing water during the rainy season, particularly so that we minimize flooding by diverting river water when the rains come down into ponds and so on, and having some more rivers dammed. We'll talk about the Mamaral River being dammed for years, and that hasn't happened, and so on. So to do that, to capture more water, particularly for irrigation for farmers and things like that. And then obviously we have to deal with problems of leaks, so that the water that we do produce is not wasted and lost and so on. We're also going to have to meter people, because when you have one flat water rate and you're paying $200 a month or $300 every quarter, as the case may be, you're not conscious about conservation. And so we have to now have a system which will force people to become conscious about how they use water. And the best way to do that is by way of a kind of metering system, so people will pay for what they use, and if they want to use more, they'll have to pay more. And therefore they will manage their water in the same way that if your electricity bill too higher, you tell your children, turn off that light, turn off the AC, and that kind of thing. So I've responded in some ways to some of the questions that have been asked and so on. So maybe what we could do, Clyde, if we could take another round of questions and comments from the floor, and then I will respond again and outline in the process of that the positions of the MSJ. But I hope I answered your question, yes? And Brother Sean, I hope I answered your question as well. Yeah? I need it.
What?
I need it.
Okay. Politics is fine. I'm telling you, I'm not asking you. If I tell you what you've been through in politics, you'll doubt it. You want to hear? Mr. Abdullah. You want to hear? I ain't ashamed, I ain't proud. I've been through crime. Politics is crime. Politics is crime. I've been into prison more than once. While in prison, police officers, politicians come in to give me bail to do the crime. Without that, alright. Question. What about water? What about, as Mr. was talking about these sports and what have you, that plenty facilities and areas, they have no football field, cricket ground, basketball court, that is one. And then we're talking about drainage, and who gained You walk to do the drainage. You understand what I'm saying? Then road. You understand what I'm saying? These is the things you need to see about. Forget about water, because you're accustomed to that for years. You're accustomed to that. So, why not deal with drainage, road, and fields, basketball court, football court, and what have you. So why not deal with that? Because the politicians, is them who just give the guns and drugs to the ones who need money to come up and be like the politicians who have the big mansions and the warehouse who bring in the drugs and the guns. It's them. The police them giving you bail and giving you work to do crime. I've been proud and ashamed. Them giving you bail, own bail. Have a work to do. When I do it, when I don't do it, still locking you up. I'm telling you, I've been through that. Me asking, I'm telling you, like 55 years of age, I'm making 11 years in jail. Flat. So, that politics, I hate it.
Okay, thanks. I'll respond to that because you said a lot of very important things and I'll respond to them. Yeah?
Yeah, good afternoon. I represent CBH, and I'm sure I'm going to have a conversation with you all at some point in time. CBH is the top of the star, the highest point. Water is a problem there all the time. We bubble water problems mostly elevated, and we still have problems with water. That being said, the entire drainage around the surrounding areas, and I talk about people that go up 50 years, and because of moving land, etc., it has become untenable, right? In terms of, by the sea stable, Miss Swine, etc., but many occasions where the young ones and the older ones are suffered decade. Now, this is what people don't realize. We are not a community to protest and whatever, but the amount of separation that we went here silently for decades without even making a fuss. Go through our people, try and block the road, and that's the only reason we didn't get results in this country, in this community, because we go up a certain way. We take it, we go through the normal channels, we wait on results, never. We've had countless members of parliament representing the area, nothing happened. This is a suggestion, I don't know, for instance, about a regional complex here. How many people under the age of 35 are here this evening, this meeting? How many people reach out to them? We have this facility here. We expand that in the middle of perpetrating, and I don't talk about before, TCL, and of course, Plaisance industrial estate. Why has it not even come into the mind of the authorities present and past to start a center here for training these young men and women who are descendants of people that built the oil industry through Texaco, Tesoro, etc. Pre-passport should be done free here, facilities to train for certain different areas in this industry supposed to be done here. This is a suggestion because this is a regional complex, but it's not only a regional complex, a regional complex smack that in the middle of the oil industry and all the downward industry. So my point is that I just hope that when they do Plaisance, we go ahead and try to deal with Plaisance, we deal with Plaisance in the whole area, because there's a lot of
Any others? Okay. My slogan is decided to come up.
Pleasant night again. The gentleman asked some serious questions in terms of Seaview Ridge, but it's not Seaview Ridge alone. Earlier on, I hinted some things. More than 8 to 10 years ago, being, and I'm just repeating, being a board member of PSEAL, I pursued an action in PSEAL, and we got the Manning administration to agree to some $48.9 million to be spent in Plaisance Park for infrastructure work. The area we speak of, brother, we had serious problems when we went by St. Bernard. The man on the corner, St. Bernard dug a hole under his house about 10 feet where water was concerned. When you went further by Mitchell, same thing. I think Salazar is here. The problem with the lands with Varma, and I'm sorry I didn't work with the documents. You'll understand, I could have worked with the documents and people understand what I'm saying. That we have had serious problems with Varma in the back of there, and the cave-ins and all of those things. When at our 50th anniversary celebrations on the Savannah here, the then PNM representative said to us that the government had passed that amount of money. But it wasn't the amount she said. We also know that Trintoc, not mentioned in this scenario now, is still a company but without employees. Trintoc had given $9 million toward the infrastructure development in Plaisance Park. But at that time, the then Prime Minister Patrick Manning went and called the elections. It's taken a little while. He called the elections and lost the elections. And the government immediately, PP government, put a hold on that. We had already gotten over $3 million passed, and that was to do work, those of us from Plaisance Park, that was to start the work in the back of Protein and others to come right down to where I live, front and back, and to go to the next side down the road. And that was stopped. Sad to say, when the PP government won the elections, I immediately took the documents that I had, made copies, and gave it to the representative of Pointe-à-Pierre, Errol McLeod. Nothing was done. I then warned, because the village council was attempting to have meeting with Petrotrin and Errol McLeod, and I warned them, I said, do not go to any meetings to meet Errol McLeod by yourself or to meet the company by yourself. And they went, and they did not, nothing happened. Nothing. And up to today, the amount of $1 million that have been passed for that infrastructural work in Plaisance Park has not taken place. So it has happened over the period, part of PNM, full PP, and then PNM again. So that nothing is taking place, and we, Fitzroy and myself, try to organize a campaign, and I see a brother here from down the next side. We started a campaign by looking for signatures from people to take it to the authorities, and down the road, we were accused that this was a MSJ thing, and we attacking the PNM government. It was never, I I'm saying it now, I was never a supporter of PNM, but I worked and Fitcher and me for this village. Whether it was football, whatever it was, I never saw politics in that. What I saw was the development of people in the area. That's what I saw. And I'm saying it again, and I'm going to say it here tonight again. My father told me to leave his house because it was a PNM house. And I tell him I ain't going nowhere. So that's how bad the thing was. That's how bad it was. So, brother, I don't know what could be done because I see Ann here and others when we are keeping meetings in there. And the village council said I didn't give them any information. And we sat down and I wrote letters and all to go to the other ministers so that Plaisance Park suffers continually. The roads, recently, I don't know how it was done, but I see the roads have been paved. But the roads have not been paved properly. All the curb walls and them falling apart. So that the money that was passed by the PNM cabinet to do the infrastructural work in Plaisance Park, nothing has been done through the PNM, well, the last election, through the PP, and now the PNM. So, brother, maybe we need to come together again and say, because I had asked the village council and the PNM people in Plaisance Park to do what we think we should do to have that money spent in Plaisance Park.
Thanks, Clyde. Let me deal with some of the issues as well. The specific problem of water upon Seaview and problem of drains, and I also, where Clyde was making the point, when I walked here some Sundays ago, we saw where in the paving was done in such a way that it was actually damaging the curb in front of a number of residents' homes. So, and I'll come back to why we have that problem of road paving and link it back to crime. If the residents of the park wish, we in MSJ are prepared to have the problems of the community, whether it's water or drainage and so on, highlighted in the media. And we've been very successful in that. In Carenage, which is the heart of Dr. Rowley's constituency, I was up there recently. Seaview Road was the name of that road, highlighting the problem of lack of water. We have done the same in other parts, and sometime after that, people got water. We highlighted the problem of garbage. 2 days after that, garbage truck pass and pick up all the garbage, and so on. So that we're prepared to highlight the problem if you, the residents, want us to do that. But we're not doing it without you. Because when we come, I don't speak much. I simply say, morning, members of the media, we are here in Plaisance Park, and there's a problem, and residents are here themselves, and we're asking the residents to speak about the problems that they have. Because you see, it comes back to the whole issue about empowerment. If we don't break the culture where somebody else have to do something for you, then you don't own it. And one of the problems we have in this country is that none of us except the 1%, and 1% is not a racial thing, 1% is whoever owns big money in this country, or who controls the multinational corporations. Because the biggest 1% in this country are the multinationals, you know. Because we have gone back to the days of BP, which left Trinidad in 1968-69. That's when Trinidad Tesoro came in. Shell left in 1974. Shell is now big again. BP is big again. So we have gone back to those days. At one time, Point Lisas was state-owned. We had ISCOT, state-owned. Methanol Company of Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago Methanol Company, Trinidad and Tobago Urea Company. Those were sold. Dupre bought it together with the Germans, Proman, and so on. And now when CL Financial collapsed, the Germans control all. So there is nothing in Point Lisas with any of those petrochemical plants that is state-owned, with the exception of 49% of the 51% of the shares of Tringen 1 and Tringen 2. The other 49% is owned by Yara. That is the only thing that is state-owned in Point Lisas. So we are being recolonized. Recolonized. And if we in Trinidad and Tobago and ordinary people don't feel that they own something, they will have no stake. And if you have no stake in the country, then you have no loyalty to build or develop this country. And that's where we are at. So part of changing that culture, brother, is you say that the park are not people who protest, all right, not going to burn tires and block road and so on, all right. So we offering you a soft option. Soft option. Bring out some members of the community. We will bring the media there, because the media will like to come out in the field to highlight problems. And we will highlight the problems, and then perhaps that will embarrass the authorities to get something done. But that is short term. So let me come now, and you all will tell us tonight if you want us to do that, and we will set a date one time when we'll get the media here to highlight those problems. Because we are about action. We walk the talk. But let me deal now with the longer term issue now, when the brother raised the issue of roads and community facilities and so on. So let me deal with community facilities first. Our policy as MSJ, because I'm saying now, well, I mean, I'll say it again, right? In a little while, I'll clarify that. An MSJ government will have a policy of allocating resources, taxpayers' money, to communities on the basis of the needs of the community. So that every community of a certain number of residents should have, if it's 10,000 residents, which is bigger than Plaisance Park, but using a big area, say 10,000 residents, must have a preschool, early childhood center, must have at least a primary school, must have recreation ground, basketball court, whatever, and so on. Every community of 20,000 people must have a secondary school, whatever, and so on, a health center. Now, if a community does not have those things, and it's very easy to map. This country has already been mapped by GIS, and so on. When I was on the Economic Development Advisory Board, we were advised that different government ministries and agencies have already mapped, so they know what exists. And therefore, if a community does not have a recreation ground or a basketball court or no lights like down in Hickling Village, and I have the copy of the letter here for you, Comrade Wilson, then by right, state resources must be allocated to meet those needs. By right. This is not now a favor that the government give you something. The government give you lights. The government ain't give you lights. Every citizen of this country ought to have recreation facilities that are lit so that people could be safe and engage in recreation. That's a right. And this country is wealthy enough to provide that. Now, there are some countries that are not wealthy enough to provide it. But we are. Now, how do you therefore work out? You have 20 communities that don't have a health center. Well, you have to put that down on a list. And the whole country should know that these are the 20 communities that on the basis of the population are supposed to have a health center and don't have a health center. But the government will say, we don't have the money to build 20 health centers this year. And therefore, over the next 5 years, we are going to build 4 health centers every year. So at the end of 5 years, every community will have their health center. And this is the schedule. So everybody knows that this year, these 4 communities getting health centers. So the other people will not be vexed and say, you see, they're giving them 4 communities because PNM in government and they're giving PNM areas. No, it will be prioritized. It will be open and transparent. Now, more than that, we are also saying that resources must come down into the communities through local government. So local government must get resources. You know, long time, drains and all of that were the responsibility of the county councils. Remember county council days? The older ones? And cutlassing on the side of the road, because in them days it had no whacker. So fellas used to have the swiper. All of that was county council work. And the workers in county council were permanently employed. Not so? But now what has happened is that and county council used to have steamroller and dump truck and so on to fix roads. Not so? You ever see a regional corporation ever fix a road? You don't see that again. Why? Because the government had a change of policy to put a lot of that in the hands of the private sector, contractors. Yes? So, we will change that as MSJ. We will put back resources in the regional corporations. Because I'll tell you, a contractor told me this, he explained this to me, and said, David, this is what is wrong. If you are a big contractor, like the fellow in Claxton Bay up the road, big contractor, and you bid for a road, when you put in your bid, you costing into that backhoe, tractor, Baba Green machine, and all kinds of equipment. You costing that in, but you already have that equipment for the last 10 years from all the contracts you're doing. So what happened now is that you getting paid for the same equipment 10 and 20 times. And that is how those fellas get so much money. That's one of the ways they get so much money. Whereas if the equipment was not in the hands of the private fellows but was in the regional corporation, then it would be used over and over again by the regional corporation and so on. So the cost of doing road paving would drop. But to do that, you have to tackle what my friend and comrade talks about, Wayne Koblar saying, the contractocracy. Because we have in this country not just an aristocracy, long time in England and thing. You had the Queen and the Lords and the Earls and the ladies and the knights and thing. That was aristocracy. And they own land from way back generations, and they exploit people, and they have wealth and became millionaires and billionaires. Well, our wealthy, some of them became wealthy because of contracts. And who gives the contracts? Government. And then, of course, you give somebody a contract, so look what happened. Rowley and they attacked Calco and Namalco, you remember? And all of them. And where's the one down in Penal? No, Ramnat. Yeah, RN Ramnat. TN Ramnat, right. Attack all of them and say contracts giving out and so on. How they get contracts? But PNM come in government. Who building the highway to Toko? Who building the Valencia bypass? The same Calco and the same Namalco, the same people getting the contracts. Why? Because when they get the contracts, who think finance the election campaign? So you give a big contract for $300 million, some of that coming back to the party to finance the campaign. That is a crime. That is why I agree with the brother. He talking about the crime at one level. I talking about it at an even bigger level, because state money is being used to finance election campaigns of the main parties. That's what happens. And that is why the quality of the road repair is bad. So yes, we want to talk about roads and drains, but that has to be done by people, and we want not only the regional corporations to get money. Why the village council can't get money? And the community council. And we have a proposal so that CPEP would not be owned by a single contractor, and every time the government change, they change out who is the CPEP contractors. So when UNC in government, there's a set of UNC supporters getting contract. When PNM in government, PNM people get contracts and so on. No. We want CPEP workers to be a cooperative, form a business as a cooperative, and let them get the contracts. So that if you have 30, 40 CPEP workers, they own. So that they get a sense of ownership. And not only to walk on the side of the road, but to maintain all the community facilities, maintain the recreation ground, maintain the pavilion, maintain the community center, maintain the health center, maintain the schools. So they also get higher skills, not only to waka, but also to do electrical work and masonry work and plumbing work and that kind of thing, and painting and so on. And after they do that, they then could also bid for contracts in Point Lisas. So coming back to the point the brother made, so that they will get training in the center, so that those people, ordinary people, are not just workers, but workers own the business. And you know what that is called? The ILO calls it the social solidarity economy. We call it the social economy. And that is the alternative, or one part of the alternative, to the policies of the PNM and the UNC, which is about giving all business and wealth to the 1% and the 5%. So they get wealthier and wealthier and richer, and the only thing left for the rest of people is to hope they get a 10 days in URP, or they beg for a CPEP, and if it's a woman, she might have to sleep with the boss to get her work in CPEP, as the case may be. That is what is going on. We want to change that completely, and therefore ensure that the wealth of the country comes down to benefit the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That's what we want to do. And that is what the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago says. Because the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago in the preamble says that we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, affirm our belief in the principles of social justice. So when they attack us and say, well, you for social justice, you ought to be socialist or communist or anything like that, we tell them, A, read the Constitution. Because every single citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, according to the Constitution, is supposed to believe in the principles of social justice. And what does that mean? It means that, and this is what the Constitution says, that the resources of the country are to serve the common good. The common good. The wealth of this country must serve the common good. It mustn't serve the good of Espinay and Robert Riley and Shell and all of them, and the 1% and all of them. It must serve the common good. And what is the common good? The common good means that every community must be properly resourced, that every child must have an equal opportunity to go to school and have a decent education, because you know, SEA results will come out, and everybody talking about whether you should publish or not publish. Publish or not publish is not the fundamental issue, you know. They're mama-guying us on that, you know. You know what the fundamental issue is? that 30 to 40% of all the children who wrote common entrance will not get more than 50%. That is a real issue, you know. And CSEC, what we call CXC, results coming out, well, exam is in May into June. 40 to 50% of all children writing CXC will not get 5 subjects with maths and English at their first attempt. Now, who are those children? Those children are the children of people in Marbella on the train line, yes? The children up in Laventille, some of the children down in Barrackpore, and so on. Some of the children up in Toko, and in Arima, and in Carenage, and so on. Those are not the children of West Moorings and Valsayn, and so on. They're not the children of Lange Park, and so on. Because the parents in those areas can afford to pay for private lessons and a whole set of other things. The children of a mother, single mother, who's a security guard. Let's just go through her life. She's a security guard working from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening. And she has 2, 3 children at home. So she gets up at 3, 4 in the morning to fix something for the children's lunch kit. And to cook a little food, so when the children come home in the evening, they will have something to eat. And she hustling out of home at 4:45 in the morning to hustle transportation to get to work for 6 o'clock. Because if, as a security guard, you reach to work late, you're losing probably half-day pay. And then she finishing work at 6, hopefully she gets relieved, and hustling transport to go home, hoping that when she reach home 7, 7:30, and have to walk up the road or through the track, that nobody in lock her neck and try to thief the $10 she have in her pocket and her cell phone. When she reach home at 8 o'clock in the night, she's tired. She's exhausted. You think she could now sit down with her 3 children and say, well, darling, what home lesson you have? And let me look at your home lesson. She can't manage that. So she could just find out, children, you do your home lesson. If they make noise, she go boof them up because she's tired and vexed. And then she tries to get a little sleep by 9 o'clock, to get up 3 o'clock in the morning, to go back on that cycle. And her children are going to struggle to pass SCA and CSEC. And therefore, what we're doing is we have an education system that reinforces the inequality of opportunity and therefore reinforces poverty in Trinidad and Tobago. That's what's going on. So they don't want to talk about that when it comes to SCA. They want to talk about whether they should publish the results or not. That's not the fundamental issue. Not the fundamental issue. And so we in this country have to focus on, as workers, as farmers, as self-employed people, as small business people, we have to focus on what are our interests. Because our interests are not the same as the interests of the 1%. All of we sisters and brothers, comrades, are not the same, you know. It ain't have one Trinidad and Tobago, you know, it have many different Trinidad and Tobagos. Many different Trinidad and Tobagos. Because Upper Pashley Street in Laventille, we are members up there. I went up there and highlight problems up in Upper Pashley Street. They killed 2 people up there the other day. I went up in Seaview Road in Carenage and Scorpion. 3 days, 4 days after a set of people get killed and one set of police, I went up myself and 3 other MSJ members. We went up and walked that area and talked to people. But the interest of people there and the lives they're living is not the same of people on the other side of the hill in Bain lands where people living in multi-million-dollar houses. They have the same view of the Gulf, but they have a different life and a different interest. And so when it comes to challenging to deal with roads and how we organize the economy, we don't want to have an economy where the only jobs that most people could get is security work and jobs in the fast food restaurants and in the casinos and in the malls. Guys, if you look around most jobs in the country now, guys, those are the jobs, not so? Mostly for women, and mostly at minimum wage, not so? Long hours. I went to a fast food place in a mall in San Fernando the other day, and it was a Sunday evening, and I asked the young lady, it was about 8 o'clock this Sunday evening, and I asked the young lady if she, what time she finished her work, and she told me, I think, 10 o'clock. So I said, well, you know, we in the union are accustomed to shift, right? So it's either 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, or 6 to 2, 2 to 10, 10 to 6, right? And some are non-continuous shift. So you might work 6 to 2, 2 to 10. So I said to her, well, you finish your work at 10, so you started work at 2. She said, no, I came into work at 10 o'clock in the morning. So she's working from 10 to 10. So I said, you're getting overtime? She said, no. I said, you know that is against the law? She said, yes, but if I say anything, I don't work in the morning. I don't work in the morning. So the kind of society that PNM and UNC want is a society where a few people, or 1%, have 60 or 70% of the wealth of the country. Another 5% have another big amount. And when I talk about the 5%, I talk about this fellow, Walcott, Ronald Walcott, CEO of TSTT. Now, it came out, so I'm not giving stories out of thing. I'm not telling a lie. It was in Parliament. His basic salary, $180,000 a month, plus $15,000 for some next allowance, entertainment or housing allowance, $5,000 for entertainment. $200,000 he getting cash. Well, of course, he pay tax on that, but that is his salary. And then on top of that, company maintained car, and of course, he's CEO of TSCT, so he must get a top-of-the-line cell phone. Now, let me say $200,000 was more, right? Because if you check the car, the value of the maintained car is another $10,000, $20,000 a month. Let me just take the cash, $200,000 a month. A minimum wage worker, $15 an hour, is $2,600 a month. Let me say $3,000 a month. $3,000 a month is $36,000 a year. Okay? That minimum wage worker will have to work for almost 6 years. 6 6s are 36, 3 6s are 18, carry 3 is 21. 21, $216,000. So in 6 years, the minimum wage worker will earn what Walcott gets in 1 month. In 1 month. That is the inequality in this country. No, it really is more than that because he's getting a car and so on. But let me just take the salary. Plus, he probably gets a bonus. And we don't know how much the bonus was. But at Angostura, and it was again in the papers last weekend, at Angostura, a former CEO, Wayne Yip Choi, who I know, he was at UE with me. Wayne Yip Choi was CEO of Angostura for a short period after Clico collapsed. And Shafiq Sultan Khan was chairman of Angostura. Same Shafiq Sultan Khan who was part of the hatchet job at Petrotrim. He was pretend he's a nice man and thing, but on TCL, but he's a hatchet man. So Shafiq Sultan Khan negotiated a contract with Wayne Yip Choi that if Yip Choi turns around Angostura to make it profitable, he'll get a bonus. And he didn't get paid the bonus, it went to court. And the court gave a judgment that Yip Choi should get $28 million as a bonus for 1.5 years work. 1.5 years, he was only CEO for 1.5 years. $28 million as a bonus for 1.5 years work. Now, take the minimum wage worker, $3,000 a month. You multiply that 36,000 a year. 10 years is $360,000. 100 years is 3.6 million. So a minimum wage worker, it will take them 700 years to make what Yip Choi get as a bonus. Now, that is what is wrong with this country called Trinidad and Tobago. And it is that status quo of the education system that depriving the children of the working class of equal opportunity so that they could get and aspire to the best job in the country. It is an education system that does not teach values. You know who said that? Not me, you know. Her Excellency Paula May Weeks, President of the Republic, who said publicly that when she taught ethics at the law school, and I know that she did because she taught my daughter ethics when my daughter was at law school, my eldest daughter, that she was horrified, that is the president speaking now, horrified by the fact that some of the brightest students who get scholarship and all kind of things demonstrated a total absence of ethics and proper values. Remember the president said that? Because our education system and our value system has a new alphabet. A for apple, B for bat, and C for yourself. C for yourself. And so the rich and the powerful seeing for themselves, and the politicians and the bureaucrats seeing for themselves, because their children not going to go to a school other than a prestige school, and their children not going to end up in Carrera or Golden Grove or in maximum security, which I visited all the prisons last year. Their children not going there. Children not going there. So they don't know the conditions in the jail. And they don't care about the conditions in the jail. And their children not going to secondary schools where gunshots fired outside the school, like at Success Lamont-Hill. And therefore they don't care about the children in those schools. They don't know how people living, like that single parent, security guard, who's seeing trouble to put food on the table in the morning. They don't know, they don't care. Espinay and Rowley and Imber don't know how former Petrotrin workers living. They don't know. And they don't care. And if they don't care about you, the question is, do you care about yourself? And if you care about yourself, then you're going to have to decide that you have to act in your own interest to change the status quo, to change this country to be a better country. That's what you have to decide. And we have been, let's be honest, we have politics, and Crystal talk about that, that is race-based. So we go to work at the company, Petrotrin or TCL or wherever, and we work together. We're in the same crew, same department, Indian African. We have to work together. If one don't pull at the same time that the other pulling, they will get damaged. Not so common. So everybody has to pull together. And if anybody's slacking, all you know how you just pull up man who's slacking. And you're pulling him up because he's Indian or African, you're pulling him up because he's slacking. And it will cause problems for everybody else on the workplace. But when it comes to the politics, we're watching each other cocky-eye. Indian one side, African the next side. And then you have certain people who deliberately rousing that up. You think Sat make that statement by accident or by guess? So I think no fool, deliberate, and the Prime Minister respond to him. So the PNM section rile up and the UNC section rile up. And all the conversation now is Indian versus African, UNC versus PNM. And Namalco and Calco and Amalgamated Security that got all the security contracts in Petrotrail, not so? And who is Amalgamated? Same one who have the prison contract, justice on time. Who own Amalgamated? The 1%. And I repeat, it's not an ethnic category, it's an economic category of who owns. That's what I'm talking about. So we quarreling here and fighting one another. Who for Sat, who against Sat, who for Gary, who against Gary. I have a press conference tomorrow morning on the Gary Griffith issue. But not to get into no personality thing with Gary. I have some fundamental questions which I'm not going to talk about tonight because I'll take too much time. I will address tomorrow. But you know what happened? For the first time, the amount of press conferences I have had in the union, as Phyton, as MSJ, I don't know how many, hundreds press conferences. You know who called me about an hour after the press release went out? A constable from San Fernando CID saying, Mr. Abdullah, I understand, call me on my cell phone. So he must have gotten a copy of the press release. I understand that you're having, MSJ having a press conference tomorrow on the issue of the commissioner. A number of officers would like to attend the press conference. Is that okay? I said, no, officer. No police officer can come into an MSJ press conference tomorrow morning. That is for the press and for MSJ. If it was a public meeting and you want to come to a public, you have the right to be in a public meeting. You could record, you could macro as much as you want, no problem. But you can't come into my office. I didn't tell him all of that, but I've seen that. You can't come into my office, when I say my office, MSJ office, to sit down to macro what I say about the Commissioner of Police at all. So I told him, I said, well, if the Commissioner will hear what the media will report. If the Commissioner vex, he go reply to me in the media or he go call me. Because he just call me and I just call him if I need to. So I said, you don't come in the press conference. But you see where they're going in this country with that? So we are now getting distracted by the race talk. And when we get distracted, we get divided as working people and poor people. And when we get divided as working people and poor people, the people who benefit from that are the wealthy and the powerful. And so, what has been happening over the years is that we have been flipping the coin. You know, well, yesterday they released the names of the World Cup squad, right? And somebody put up something and said they like the squad. Neil Giuseppe put up something on Facebook, and different people were commenting. So I put up my little comment and I said, I'm not sure that Ashley Nurse is a match-winning spinner. I never see Ashley Nurse win up any kind of match for us yet, right? As a spinner. And the problem is that apart from Sunil Narayan, we don't have any real match-winning spinners. But every other team is going to have one or two match-winning spinners. Watch it. And they're going to be taking wickets and keeping down the run rate, and we wouldn't be able to do that. So that was my comment. But what I'm making is that start of a cricket match, the captains toss the coin. And one called heads, one that didn't toss called heads or tails. And if he wins the toss, because he calls correctly, he has the option of batting or fielding first, which may make a big difference in the outcome of the game, as we know cricket, yes? But when we flip the coin at election time, and we flip heads, PNM, tails, UNC, we lose. It don't matter which side the coin fall, we lose. Because it's the same damn coin. Same coin. And we have to realize, sisters and brothers, now you see that coin? That is like the Trinidad and Tobago 1 cent coin. The Trinidad and Tobago 1 cent coin have no value anymore. It is a relic of the past for a museum. And we must put that coin, UNC P&M coin, like the 1 cent coin, as a relic of our political past and put it in a museum for the history books. And decide that we are going to bring about not small change, 1 cent, but real fundamental change in Trinidad and Tobago to bring about social justice and a better life for all. But the question is, how do we get that? And so I'm going to answer, in a way, a question that my sister asked me before the meeting quietly. So, everybody knows I was in the OWTU for 39 years, right? Lyndon, you're a little older than 39, right? But not much, right? So I was in the union for 39 years. When I joined, I met Callender and Fitzroy, I think. Met them fellas, because them fellas older than me, right? But apart from the two of them, I was in the union longer than anybody else in this room. But I have to pay respects to my elders like Callender and Fitzroy, Lewis. So, 39 years in the union. In those 39 years, well, I see Sil. I think I met Sil too, Johnson. Yeah, I know Sil, good evening. An ex-Park man. And he was in the union before me. So, from T&Tech. So we have 2 T&Tech men and a point-of-care man. All of them were presidents of the branch at one point in time or the other. So we have former branch presidents here. And when I say that, let me recognize executive officers of the OWTU. But I think Comrade Ricky Benny had to leave a short while ago. Comrade Chandra Singh, Ram Singh, treasurer, and thanks, Comrade Cover. And Comrade Himraj Bazio, executive trustee, and of course, Ozzy, who is both general secretary of OWTU, is also an executive trustee of the union. So, in those 39 years, I organized plenty demonstration, plenty march. I write plenty memorandum, to the point that tired write memorandum. Proposals, all kind of proposals. Nationalization of oil industry, against nationalization of T&Tech generation, budget memorandum, all kind of things I write. We meet government ministers, we present the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, this minister, Minister of Energy, all of them things. Tired do that, 39 years. But nothing fundamental in change in those 39 years. Give evidence before Commission of Inquiry into Administration of Justice, recommendations to amend industrial court laws and so on, all kind of things. Constitution reform, all kind of things. And then we said, well, you know what? We have to get into politics, because those who control political power are crucial in making the decisions about what happens in the country. Because you could make noise all you want, you could lobby all you could want, you could burn tires, bring media, all that. And you'll get a little ease up. They go run some water, they go fix the road, some little ease up. But fundamentally, the real way in which the country is organized and run will not change. So you make one step forward, and they push you 2 steps backward. So, a number of us start up MSJ. We had another party before, but I wouldn't go into that history. Motion. But we start MSJ. Quietly, we did no public meetings. We were preparing for the 2012 elections. So we are planning to launch in 2010 or 2011. So we'd have a 1-year run up to the 2012 elections. I was just about 40, 50 of us. And then, bam, Manning called the election early. So the question came, well, what do? We can't contest elections because we registered, but we haven't made any public statement. So we decided, you know what? we will be part of the coalition, the partnership. Why? We knew the UNC, we know the nature of the UNC beast. We know of the corruption and the nature of their politics, all of that. We knew the individuals. But we said to ourselves that perhaps with the COP and NJAC and maybe TOP, together we might be able to pressure the government, we being part of it, to make some reforms. Labor laws, some other reforms and so on. And if we achieve that, then there will be some betterment for workers and people in the country. So we went in with that objective. But the objective was never to be part of that government till death do us part. It was not like when you marry somebody, till death do you part. That was not it. It was always just to try to get improvements. When we realized that was not possible, we came out. So we came out after 2 short years, we were out. And then we worked with Dr. Rowley and the PNM in the round table, campaigning against corruption, against abuse of power like Section 34, and so on. And therefore, we felt that there would have been some improvement. The trade union signed a MOA with the PNM and with the ILP, and in it they said they would, if the PNM came into government, they'd put labor on state boards. They never did. So, and we could go and give many other examples. So, over a short period of time, the PNM quite clearly showed its true colors and went against the interests of the very people who voted for them, including all the PNM supporters in Point and La Brea and in San Fernando West and East and Pointe-à-Pierre, who were oil workers. They closed down Petrotrin, we know that whole story. So we have faced, sisters and brothers, as MSJ with this question. We are faced with the question, how do we bring about a better life for everybody in Trinidad and Tobago? How do we achieve that? That's our objective. Better life for all. Social justice for all. How do we achieve that? And we have come to the conclusion, you see, lobbying and protest, that ain't going to get us a better life for all. Because we've been doing that for years and it has not succeeded. There's no way that we could have any coalition with the UNC. And for no way at all. And Kamala made it very easy for everyone in the country to know, because she said, no more coalition. The only unity, you have to come inside the UNC with one leader, her. So you have to run to her dictates. And now they're trying to rebrand her because they have ads saying that, follow this lady who's fighting for social justice. Well, let me just warn you that you see that? That is the story of Little Red Riding Hood, who the wolf ate up the grandmother and put on the grandmother clothes and went by the door and take Little Red Riding Hood. And Little Red Riding Hood said, but Grandma, what big teeth you have. And Grandma, you don't smell the same. And what big feet you have. And why do you have a tail? See Kamala? She's the wolf in grandma clothing. She always boasts about being grandma. She's a wolf in grandma clothing. She ain't no fighter for social justice. So forget UNC. And there can be no coalition. In any case, the PNM does say there's fight alone, lose alone, win alone. But we must make sure they lose this time. They must lose. But the UNC must lose too. And therefore, logic will tell you that you have to have a choice. If UNC and PNM are not a choice, then you must have a choice. Well, in 2010, you did not have a real choice. In 2015, you had no choice. But in 2020, you will have a real choice, and that choice is the movement for social justice. And I'm not saying that because I have some burning desire to be Prime Minister or some burning desire. I was offered ministerial position with meeting with Kamala 3 days after the election. Kamala, Jack Warner, McLeod, myself, Dagger, Dukaran, and Roy Augustus, meeting in the famous Gopal House in the back of St. Augustine there. And Kamala says, David, I want you to work closely with me in the office of the Prime Minister and be the Minister of Social Development and the People. And as soon as the words came out of her mouth, I said, Prime Minister, thank you, but no thanks. So I could have been a minister. And that had a big budget, eh? $3-4 billion. I could have been sharing food card like what your name? Who is Glenn, right? I could have been sharing food card like him and getting people to like me. Yeah, David, you give her a food card, I go vote for you. But we don't want to share food card for people to vote for us. We want people to be conscious and organized to know that when they're voting for the MSJ, they're voting to bring about real change in Trinidad and Tobago. That's what we want to do. And so, sisters and brothers, we are offering ourselves because it is only with an MSJ government that you will get people in government who will walk the talk and who are prepared to challenge the status quo. But we will do that, coming back to the first point, because we have an organized and conscious people. That is the only way we're going to be successful. And so I hope, coming out, and so I kind of winding up, Chair, if I can, ending, because I lost track of time, and I think we're probably getting close to the time where we could end. Yeah, so it's time for us to end. I would like to see in the park, and we're going into Marabella and Claxton Bay and all over the country. We're in Faizabad 2 weeks ago. We were in St. James 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, we were in Point Fortin. We're going all over the country with this message. But it cannot be on the back, my back alone. I feel I have a strong back. I have a strong back around long time. And this progressive politics since 18, when I was a student leader on campus. My first year on campus, 18 years old, I was treasurer of the guild. I finished secondary school with A-levels at 16. I worked for a year. I started UE at 18. Treasurer of the guild at 18. President of the guild at 19. Contest Tunapuna elections for ULF, the original ULF, when I was 21, turning 22. So I'm in this thing long time. And as the Psalm says, up to now, I never get weary. Never get weary yet. Never get weary, because there are people outside there who are suffering. And I can't be happy and sit down and relax and say, okay, I could live okay while other people outside suffering, and I do nothing to change that. So that is what we are about. But as broad as my back might be, and as committed as I am, it requires a movement to bring about change. And that is why our name is the Movement for Social Justice. And so, sisters and brothers, I would ask Fitzroy and Clyde and Brother Ricky and the other brothers and so on, from here to after this meeting, to organize. Let's be real. We need to have an MSJ party group in the park. We need to have party group in Marabella, in Claxton Bay, because when the time comes for elections, it is those groups that have to do the work. And I'll tell you, we have no $1 million unless I won Lotto Wednesday night. I think I won yet, I hope. If I won, then we have a little bit of money for the campaign. So we have to defeat the power of money with the power of people. And if we have plenty people doing the work and spreading the message, that is more powerful than all the TV ads and newspaper ads in the world. So we need you to be part of this movement. And in terms of activity, we have a telethon coming up on the 26th of May, Sunday the 26th of May at Palms Club. It's a free concert. I already called today Chantal Esdell, jazz pianist, she's coming. Brother Resistance coming. Valentino coming. Well, Ricky Jai was in New York, so I was calling back on WhatsApp, but I don't have WhatsApp on my phone, so but later tonight or in the morning I got to call him. I'm hoping he will come. And there are going to be many others. Vonette Bigford told me tomorrow morning she will confirm. Ruth Osmond, another jazz singer, she's already confirmed. A free concert, right? But when you come, right, you got to put out some dollars to contribute to the campaign. Because you're going to swipe your credit card and you're going to make a donation and so on. Because as Max Senhouse used to say, we need the money. But if 1,000 people give us $100, right? That is what? $100,000. And 1,000 people giving us $100 means that those 1,000 people have a stake in the party. If one person gives us $100,000, that one person will feel he owns the party. And that is the difference with what we are trying to do and what we're trying to build. So, let me end. I could keep talking whole night. And no. People have work tomorrow and all kind of stuff like that. Well, some people have work. Some people, the fireys from Petrotrin may not have work. And the retirees, like my colleagues here, they do have work. But I don't want to stretch people's patience. There are lots of things in our policy document on governance, on a whole range of things. On the economy, on education, on youth, on so on. So I invite you, you got a little brochure, and you see the website. You could go to the website and you could see the policy documents. Go to Facebook, follow us, and like us on Facebook, and so on. And let us together build this movement for social justice so that we as a movement can go into government. Not David and the candidates, but we as a people can go into government and make government truly work for all the people and not just for the few. Thank you very much.
And I hope that you have grasped and understood exactly where we are going. The sort of commitment that has been made by our leader and those of us who are in the leadership of the MSJ. Those of us who, as David said, never get tired yet, who have been in this thing for many, many years. So thank you for coming. And have the rest of the good night. And safe traveling, Mercies. So I say, don't go, we have a few snacks out there for you.